maybe like a little bit too much creamer. Hey guys, what's up and welcome to my channel. Today we're gonna have a coffee talk, and I've never done one on this channel before, and I totally got this idea from Kayla Nicholson. Link to her channel will be below. She just does coffee talks and talks about things in her life, and I just thought that it was a really nice way to have a relaxed conversation on camera. So today's video is going to be about finances and my financial journey, and I'm so sorry, my chair is so squeaky. This video is gonna just encompass my financial journey and how I got out of credit card debt, along with just books that I read that kind of helped me along the way. And I mentioned the books because those were honestly such a fundamental part of me getting out of credit card debt. So just to kind of begin, let's back up to how I started out with finances. So growing up, my parents were very penny pinching. We were definitely not poor. We lived a very comfortable lifestyle, but my parents were meticulous about not letting money go to waste and not giving us any money, us being the kids. So we never really learned how to manage money growing up because we weren't given an allowance or anything like that. So as soon as I started making money, I would just spend it, just buying it on things that I wanted because I didn't have that option before. So obviously that led to issues once I actually got a real job. I got a credit card probably, I don't remember, it was either high school or college, and I was pretty good about it at first. I would pay it off immediately at the end of the month, but then as I got older, I stopped paying off so much of it, and by the end of it, I found myself about $6,000 to $7,000 in credit card debt, which to some people that might not seem like a lot, to other people that might seem like a ton. It kind of just is all relevant to who you are. But for me, I was super disappointed in myself. I was like, oh my gosh, I have to get out of this credit card debt, because it seemed like every time I paid it off, just something else came up and I had to put it on my credit card, and it was super, super frustrating. So that's the backstory. I actually remember when the moment hit me that I needed to change my mindset about money. I hated talking about money. I just didn't talk about it. And one day I just remember thinking to myself, because Will, my boyfriend, is very, very, very much into money, and he's an accounting major. He just loves talking about it. It's like a numbers game for him. He's really interested in his stocks, and that was just something that I didn't want to talk about with him because I knew I had debt and I knew he didn't. So I got a Kindle for my birthday when I was deployed. It was my 25th birthday present, and I just remember I really wanted to read books because I was in Germany / Poland / other European countries where they didn't have English books really rampant. And I really liked self-help books, and I always read relationship self-help books or just personal self-help books. But then I thought to myself, why don't I read a financial self-help book? This was around Christmas time. So I picked up, I would obviously show you on my Kindle, but it was called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. And I just remember it being such a good read, being super engrossed, and this guy's way of thinking and how he viewed money and how there's so many good things about this book. And I actually think I made a review on this book. If I did, I will link it below. And I just remember thinking this book is awesome, and honestly it really did change my life. And I know that seems like such a dramatic way of saying it, but it really, really did. Let me get a sip of coffee real quick. After I read that book, I just couldn't have enough. I then wanted to read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which was recommended a lot in that book. And I did make a review on that book, and I'll link that video below. And that book was really good because I could resonate with the narrator. He talked about how one dad was really rich, and then one dad was really poor, and they lived the opposite lifestyles. And I could completely understand where this guy was coming from. And that book got me thinking about investment, which I've never thought about investing before. I never thought about stocks, real estate, or anything like that. And I wanted to do those things and make myself passive income, which passive income is a whole nother element all in itself. There are plenty of videos out there if you guys want to learn about passive income. But I thought to myself, I am a consumer, I'm not a producer, A. And then B, I have so many liabilities and not enough assets. But before I can even breach those things and make assets, I have to get rid of my credit card debt. And that is kind of how all this started. So my brother, when I was home, for block leave after I got back from deployment, he actually gave me Dave Ramsey's The Total Money Makeover. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I'd heard a lot about Dave Ramsey's program before, but I had just never actually like looked into it. So I read the book very quickly actually, and he has 7 steps in there. And I don't remember which number it was, but the number 1 step was, well, one of the steps was completely getting rid of your credit card debt. And he said that if you had over $1,000 in your emergency savings, and then you were wrong. So I forgot, I had a couple $1,000s in emergency savings. So I took that money and I just hit my credit card debt hard with it. And I remember thinking, like, it was like a gut punch when I did that move, because it was like, oh my gosh, like I worked so hard to make a safe haven for my emergency funds, and here I am just throwing it at my credit card debt. And honestly, it was like a wake-up call. It really was, to see that money deplete, and all I wanted to do was make my savings funds go higher again. But Dave Ramsey is very specific in his program and how you do not put money over $1,000 in your savings account until you knock out all your debt. So I did that. And then after that book, I read Financial Peace, also by Dave Ramsey, which was, I think, really the first book that came out. I just happened to read The Total Money Makeover first. But I'm still actually reading Financial Peace. I'm about halfway through the book right now, and I'm really enjoying it as well. Financial Peace, they kind of talk about the same things, but to me, it's nice because it reiterates the mindset that you need to be in to be smart with your money. And it took me a couple months after throwing my emergency savings monies at my credit card debt to finally get rid of all of my credit card debt. But officially, as of 3 days ago, I have paid off my credit card, and it was like the most amazing feeling in the world to not have this credit card debt looming over my head anymore, because it just seemed like a never-ending battle. And so I don't know, like, I feel like financial stability and financial growth is not something that's really talked about in like my area of people. Like, I feel like we don't really talk about that, and that's something that I've gotten so interested in and something that I want to get better about. And I actually met with a financial advisor about investments and stocks, and I do want to get into that. The next book I read after Financial Peace is actually going to be Investment 101, which was a book that was actually given to me by a colleague at work, and I plan on reading that next. I mentioned books because, like I said, it is like imperative that before you just throw your money at something, to understand what you're doing with it, because I don't want to say money is power, but there are so many goals that I want to have. So for some of the tools that I used, I just wanted to share with you guys. All right, I have 2 notebooks to share here with you guys. So the first one, and here they are, okay? So the first one was this one. It's called Crazy Ideas. This was the first time I've journaled and not used a thought, which I know this sounds really weird. So normally when I journal, I write down my thoughts, feelings, events, those kind of things. This kind of journal was different. This was broken up into 3 parts. So this one was like goals for the first half. The middle half was like YouTube ideas, and then the last portion of it was like books I was reading and notes I was taking from those books. So the portion that I want to focus on was the financial portion. So I started off, like, I wrote a column that said finances, and I know this probably seems like really elementary compared to what other people put together, because most people use like Excel, but I didn't do that. I just created like a bullet journal, and I went with it, and I started off with like my debt. I had a date in which I inputted the money, the input of how much I actually put into it, and then what was left over. And then I color coded it. The green was when I did good, when I put money in, and then the red was when I did bad, when I added to my credit card debt by charging things. And so I did that for a long time, and that actually was really good in letting me see like how my money flow was going, and like where I was spending money, and how many times I told myself throughout the month that, oh, it's okay to charge it to the credit card. That made me realize what my habitual habits were. When I got back from the States, I switched over from this journal into one that's like this, which I like a lot better. This one has like little dotted lines. Very similar setup, YouTube ideas, things like that. But this one, I got to the point where I also started writing out like what my financial goals were. So some of mine, if you guys are curious, was to pay off the credit card, which I finally did. I want to save $1,000 in investment. I want to have like thousands of dollars in my emergency funds. I want to pay off my Jeep. I want to like start creating a down payment on a house. I want to maybe save for a wedding if I ever get married one day. Like I don't want to just like get engaged one day and not have like any money saved up for it. Like whenever that moment happens, I want to have money put aside so I'm not going in debt for a wedding. So those are like some of my financial goals. And I don't know. I just wanted to make a video about it. Like I said, I feel like there's a lot of ignorance right now with finances, and I just don't want to be part of that. I want to show to my viewers that this is something that I think is important. Like, I think getting a hold of your finances is so important, and it's so relieving to not have that credit card debt anymore, and to know that all the money that I now make from my paycheck isn't going towards a credit card debt. It's now going towards like my savings, and then I can just throw more money at my Jeep so I can pay off my Jeep even faster. I don't know, maybe this is a silly video. I just think it's so important to be invested in your future, because at the end of the day, like, one day we're all going to retire, and what you put into yourself and your finances is what's going to matter. I do have a retirement plan, a retirement savings account, which is a whole nother video in and of itself. I started that back in 2016. So if that's not something you've done for yourself, maybe you guys should think about that as well. But I hope this video was interesting. I hope it was informative for you guys. Like I said, I'll list below like the books that I recommend, just like from the few that I've read. There are so many other books out there, and there are books that I read that I don't also recommend either because they're not that great. But I hope that if you're somebody who wants to get a grip on their finances, that this was an informative and helpful video to you. So with that being said, that's gonna end my first ever coffee talk. I'm not sure if I'm gonna make more of these. Like I said, stole this idea from Kayla Nicholson. She's really awesome, and I love watching her videos, and I think she's really inspirational. So yeah, give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more videos. Let me know in the comments below if there are financial books that you enjoy, that you think I should read. I am totally up for reading more about finances and learning more about how to take control of my money and my future. So yeah, I'll see you guys in another video. Bye.